Welcome back, Freedom Brigade Nation. It's a great day. Today is Wednesday, March the 18th. Randy Lynch, happy birthday to my
Happy
husband.
birthday, Randy!
Fun stuff. So, Andrea, we have the coolest thing planned. The girls are 8 and 10 this year. Now, Isabella is 17, and so she's going to go to dinner with us, and she's agreed to not complain, and she bought it, right? And so that's what you expect from a teenage girl. But the little girls, I had a whole presentation today. I don't share pictures of my littlest kids on here with you guys, but those of you that are friends on Facebook, I will share later. They have, we got a presentation complete, like my littlest 8-year-old Hannah. She was standing there with a pointer and different pictures had drawn. One said dad, and it was a picture of her dad. And she said, we're going to do this for dad. And then she had the next one, and the cake, mom, the cake is on you. And she had a picture of the cake and moved on. And so
I love that. Homeschool kids. She's already a CEO, next president. She's like in charge. I love that she has a pointer. Like, I'm going to send her a laser so that she can.
Oh, she will love that. That is.
I love that.
She took a little stick thing that I have for crafts. And so she'll love to have it.
Perfect.
But that's so much.
I'll help her make some slideshows next time. Tell her she can send me everything, and I'll slideshow and graphic it out for her. Oh my goodness,
she will love that. It's they're in there. They've been making banners, and the whole thing is decorated. I'll have to send you some pictures.
Oh my God, girls are the best.
I love having little kids. You know, that's the difference between a girl mom and a boy mom. We did the boys, and I never had a presentation over how we were going to do Dad's birthday, right? It was a very different animal there.
And yeah, you and I were just talking about, I'm a boy mom, and I can't get like 2 words out of my boys most days. It's like, what's going on? How's your day? What should we do later? And they're like, oh, you're talking too much. Like, I'm fine. Like, go away, mom. But girls are like, they plan with you and they help you with things.
They don't stop talking. Like, sometimes I have to be like, it is like, it's nighttime. I am now in my 40s. I can't keep doing the it's like very different. With the boys, Andrea, what I used to do is I started when my oldest was about 5. I started what is your favorite part of the day? And I made them sit down with me for dinner every night.
You have to force it.
I know. And I'm like,
but what are they going to say? Like,
part of the day. Yeah. And it was a rule.
When my friend told a bad joke at lunch, you know, I don't care. They'll say something for 30 seconds and then they'll roll their eyes at you, you know?
I don't care. That's more than we were getting before, right? But it had to be the family rule. You cannot say nothing. That was a family rule. You cannot say nothing, or you have to do dishes, you know, like you have to give me your favorite part.
My kids are homeschooled like your kids. And so I wake up in the morning. I'm always like really energetic. I love mornings. And they always tell me that I need to just slow down and speak. I need to not be so hyper in the morning. They're like, Mom. And they don't drink coffee, but they like tea. I'll make them like these little tea, you know, so they're like, Mom, we need our tea before you just bombard us with our day. Cause I'm like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And they just roll their eyes at me. They're like, Mom, go away. We're not even awake yet.
No, I'm with them in the morning, right? I don't drink coffee anymore. It's tea, but I used to say I need 1 cup to turn into a real person. And 2 cups to be a nice person. I understand that. I do understand. So anyway, we're going to solve the world's problems today. We've got a really you're going to love the speakers we have. But I do want to bring up U.S. Law Shield. You know that we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, Andrea. However, if you need to defend yourself, what will happen is you will be hauled away to jail because you are not innocent until proven guilty. And then you'll have to bail out, and then you'll have to prove your innocence in court. You are very much guilty until proven innocent. They may not sentence you without a trial, but they will definitely take you to jail without a trial. And so what do? I mean, you've got to be able to defend your family. Well, there's U.S. Law Shield. And if you go to freedombrigades.com and you will put in brigades when you go to U.S. Law Shield. Actually, if people just follow the link, you can get this insurance. My husband and I do it. It's very cost effective. But it's just a little bit every month, and what happens is if I have to defend myself or my husband has to defend himself, an attorney shows up. There is an attorney in your state on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They show up, they take custody of you, and they take over from there. They will oversee the entire case from beginning to end and keep you out of jail and help you protect your constitutional rights. It is a shame that in the United States of America that we need to have insurance like this, but especially if you're going to be a patriot, especially with how the Democrats have allowed so many criminal immigrants in our borders, I think it's wisdom to have this because you very likely may need to defend yourself. So go to freedombrigades.com, click on U.S. Law Shield and get yours today. It's about keeping each other safe and being smart. We're in war, we've been infiltrated, and it matters what you do.
And that kind of insurance is the best. I don't like insurance in any other way, but we, Tom, and in the legal work that you and I have done with a lot of attorneys in this fight that we've been in, we always say that it's like the rich against the poor. And unfortunately, a lot of us can't afford to go get an attorney to fight most of these battles that you could very easily find yourself in. So that type of insurance sounds very smart.
And so, like I said, we bought it for both my husband and myself, and it covers me if I'm visiting with you and Tom in a different state, as we've done many times. It covers me there. It covers me when I'm having to go to the city to work in my office, or if I'm in my home, wherever I'm at. And so, and it does cover more than guns. Just anytime you've needed to defend yourself. So it's pretty amazing. Check it out. Law Shield. Go do it through the Freedom Brigades and help us out too. But I want to bring on, Jonathan Hewitt. And
love Jonathan.
We have seen how we know that there's dark money in the political realm. We know that the candidates are messing with the money. They're moving money in different ways where we can't see it. They're not as upfront as they should be a lot of times. And there are a lot of consultants. While there are good consultants, Andrea, you've acted as a consultant, there are good guys out there. But there are a lot of consultants that are not the good guys, and they really are what propels the issue behind the scenes, right along with the lobbyists once they get into office. We've said that the teachers' unions are the issues in the schools. It's not the school boards themselves, it's the teachers' unions that power the issues behind the scenes. Well, in the political realm on the campaigns, it's the consultants. Not all of them, but many of the disruptive consultants cause the issues, just like the lobbyists do once they get elected. So let's talk to Jonathan Hewitt. He has done some research that I found fascinating. And we can go ahead and bring on Wayne Hill. He's the vice chair of the Oklahoma Republican Party. Wayne has to deal with me on a regular basis. So if Wayne comes to mind, you guys pray for Wayne. Pray for him because he is having to deal with me pretty regularly. But it's so funny, Wayne, when we first met, you and I knew we'd be friends. I was working with America's Frontline Doctors. You were working with OK2A, and we exchanged numbers and I knew there would be more to it, and you haven't been able to shake me. It's been interesting.
But Jonathan, working with you and under you, Charity.
That's very sweet, Wayne. Jonathan,
I have to say that.
Yes, I paid him. So, okay, Jonathan, you have been showing some stuff that has been phenomenal. And so now remember, you're specifically looking at Oklahoma, but this issue, guys, is how it works in every state. So he's going to use very general terms because this happens everywhere. But once again, as Andrea and I continue to say, if it is happening in Oklahoma, which I believe is the reddest state in the union, every county voted for Trump 3 times. I can carry a gun in my purse without any kind of permission or paper saying other than the Constitution. That is a conservative way. That's a conservative state. You can't hold a meeting here on Wednesday, much Tom always gives me a hard time about that, because that's a church night and people won't come and they'll be offended that you actually held it on a Wednesday. This is a conservative Bible Belt state. If this is happening here, it is definitely happening there. Jonathan, tell us what it is that you found.
Yeah, so I think that's an excellent intro, Charity. I'll say I spoke to a former lawmaker in the state of Georgia who confirmed that even in a red state or even purple state such as Georgia, that the same type of consultant and like PAC network occurs there also. So it confirms what you already suspected and what you said. And so my work started probably about 5 months ago. I started doing some research into, well, if Oklahoma is the reddest state in the union, why does conservative reform seem to stall here? And it took me down a path. Luckily, Oklahoma has a pretty decent filing system where you can see where money is being spent. It's not great, but it's usable. And so after about 200 hours in Oklahoma ethics, I was able to compile and map a network of political action committees and consultants with an interwinding connection in both chambers of our government, from both Senate leadership to House leadership, and then on to what is now front runners in executive branch races.
Okay, show us what you found. This is fascinating. I don't know if fascinating is the word as much as horrifying, but we need to know, right?
Yeah, so I titled it Oklahoma Unveiled because I think it's important for people to know, but if you're in your state, I'm just pretend that Oklahoma says whatever state you're in, because it's probably pretty similar. So why it matters, we already kind of talked about it, right? Oklahoma has that supermajority, yet many high priority reforms stall behind closed doors. In our state, a big one is tax reform, if you wanted it, an idea of what those look like. And so what I found was that the public record suggests that the bottleneck of it doesn't come from like ideological differences, right? But appears to be maybe a more consultant-centered political machine that may drive it. And so what I found was that a consultant and a consulting firm and then associated networks with that had gained outside influence over the levers of power in Oklahoma. What I want you to think of in whatever whatever state you're in, that being like if you have a single chamber, right, whatever leadership is over that. If you're in a bicameral system, right, your Senate, like pro tems or speakers of the House, things like that. To do it in Oklahoma, we kind of got to go back to set the stage on how it actually happened, right? So back in 2018, for many of you who don't know, Oklahoma was a Democrat state until about 2012. The chambers are actually flipped. There's a supermajority in both chambers for the Democrats, and now we carry a supermajority in both chambers for Republicans. And so in 2018, Republicans and conservative Oklahomans thought that they were finally getting a foothold and that like conservative reform was on the horizon. Well, what we found was that there was a purge that occurred in 2018. Conservative incumbents were targeted by what appears to be a coordinated effort by a political action committee at the time known as the Conservative Alliance PAC. And then that ethics report shows that PAC spent substantial amounts with a specific consulting firm known as CAMP here in Oklahoma. And what it appears is that it was a lot less of a grassroots rebellion and more a consultant-driven restructuring of that shaped the power of the legislature. So CAMP is the consultant, right? I want you to, like I said, just put in whatever consulting firm you know of in your state, which was founded by a prominent political consultant, and it appears repeatedly in top filings, right? So our Speaker of the House, our pro tem of our Senate, our current Attorney General, the former Speaker of the House, all paid CAMP a substantial amount of money. But it doesn't just stop at that higher echelon. It actually extends to things like committee chairs. I want you to think of like those that are deciding like how your money is being appropriated, how the rules committees are operating, things like that. And so this is actually a screenshot. What I did is inside this presentation, I bring you not just the information, but the receipts that prove it. And so if you're in Oklahoma, this is what it looks like. If not, I would urge you in whatever state that you're in to go find whatever ethics reporting software your state uses and to dig into it. It will give you, and you will glean huge insights into that.
So how can they find that? So that's going to be like today, you just looked up Oklahoma Ethics Commission, correct?
Well, no, you can look up OK Guardian. So the system the Ethics Commission employs in Oklahoma is the Guardian system. And so if you just search up OK Guardian Ethics and click the first link, it'll bring you to their landing page where you can search candidates, committees, lobbyists, things like that. And what's highlighted there, you see substantial amounts of money being spent, right? And then this is for the former Speaker, Charles McCall. And then what's really, really interesting is the current Attorney General. And I forgot to preface my entire presentation. I am not pro any candidate. I'm not against any candidate, right? It's just showing you where it's at.
I need to go on record and say the same thing. You're showing where they put their money. A couple of these guys are currently running for office, and I get along with them. And we're not accusing them of doing anything. You're talking about the consultants here, correct?
Yes. But what's interesting is that the current Attorney General has spent over $1 million to that consultant, right? Over in one aggregated total filing period. And so what I went through when I went and continued down this rabbit hole, I extrapolated the data out of it. And what we see on the screen now is actually a document where we see the members of the House leadership team that uses that one single consultant, that same one that we've been talking about. And then the Senate leadership that also uses the same consultant. In Oklahoma, that is a vast majority. More than, I would say, 70% of both chambers leadership use the same consulting firm.
That's interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Do you think that's the way it is in most states where you have so many that use it? Now, why is that in Oklahoma? Is it just because they're so well known and they've been doing it for so long? Or why do you think that is?
It actually does that next slide. And this is the reason I can't prove it. This is what I know of. So for anybody who doesn't know me, I have a background. I worked in the state legislature as a legislative assistant for a year. And it is very well talked about that you can apply with leadership, right, or them or their consultants will find somebody to run against you, right?
Well, so we've had Jet on talking about that, as well as, we've had several. Jason Murphy was talking about that, correct?
Well, these consultants, Jonathan, we were talking earlier before we went on, these consultants a lot of times aren't stateside. I call it carpet bagging consultants because they're coming from DC a lot of times. In my state, it's like one consulting firm that everyone uses, and if they don't use them, you'll not win. I mean, it's like the mafia. And so really, I've said this from the beginning when we talk about Susie Wiles, and Charity's always like, Andrea, calm down. But what I'm saying is look at the consulting class always, because they're the ones really managing things, and they get away with stuff because we're looking at the candidates, but we're not looking at the people behind them that are pulling all the strings.
Yeah. And I think it's important to mention that the consulting firm that we're speaking about here, Camp, that consults for an outsized amount of the leadership, is an Oklahoma-based consulting firm. Okay. However, the money, like Conservative Alliance PAC and other things and other political action committees that then money's funneled into this consulting candidates, does come from like Delaware filed businesses and 501c4. So to your point, Andrea,
why are Delaware businesses giving to our campaigns?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's necessarily Delaware. I think that people around the nation use Delaware because they don't have to disclose who they are to Delaware.
Exactly. And Delaware has a special little legal loophole there.
Yeah. And so they go and file over there and then do their business here in Oklahoma, but the business is registered out of Delaware. So then when you go look them up, you can't find out who owns them. And if you do find out who owns them, it's some consulting firm or some like administrative company that just runs it for like hundreds of thousands of businesses.
And when you look in, again, I'm just imploring everyone across the nation to look into the consulting class, look into the consulting firms that your candidates are using, because many of them are like bipartisan. Like Susie Wiles is working for a firm that also works with the Obamas and the Democrats. And you look at the lobbyist people, they'll work for anyone that pays them. You don't want those type of consultants pulling your candidates.
And we're actually going to talk about that because what you're talking about right there, Andrea, is happening in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And we have the receipts to prove it. And so ultimately to your question, Charity, is that what ends up, at least appears like, right, is that you either hire Camp and like bend the knee to leadership or decline and risk becoming a target. And what we see then over time is that it appears this creates a legislature that becomes more responsive to a consultant network than it does to its voters.
That's horrifying. Okay.
And so I want to let everyone know, if you're not big into politics or if you're just getting into it, a lot of times people think that lawmakers have the outside influence, right? But in politics, there's two things I'll tell you that actually matter. And it's money and proximity to power. Those are the two largest drivers of the political machine. So in Oklahoma, we have 3 PACs that are directly tied to our consulting network. And this is Advanced Freedom PAC, Amber Integrated PAC, and the Truth PAC. All share a common filing agent, which is an organization known as Redbud Reporting. And these PACs frequently donate to candidates who also pay that consulting firm for their services. But where things get really, really interested is this Amber Integrated PAC that donates to all of our most conservative members of the House, and I'll put that in quotes, also support Democrat Representative Forrest Bennett. And so what we see is that this structure isn't necessarily about ideology. It's about gaining influence, not pushing whatever the conservative message is.
And we have that happening nationally. You look at the Arnolds in Texas, Democrats who love abortion or WEF, awful people, they're donating to your big Republican candidates. Look at where the money's coming from.
So this right here, that if you're seeing on your screen, if you're watching visually, if not, I recommend going back and watching the Freedom Brigades podcast. That isn't a shameless plug. Charity didn't pay me to say that, but you should go back and watch it. So these are screenshots from the Ethics Commission filings, right, where we see those 3 PACs all using Redbud Reporting, right? And then on the right, this is this is Amber Integrated's independent expenditure, their expenditure report from the first quarter of 2025. And we see on here, I highlighted it and boxed it in blue for you, a nice pesky little donation to a Democrat representative. And so then we have layer on the consulting network, we get a compliance backbone. People know, and it's widely talked about here in Oklahoma, I'm sure it probably is in other states too, that our ethics commission here likes to go after the little guys and not always go after the big guys, because the big guys are spending lots and lots of money to pay firms to ensure that their ethics are in compliance. Here in Oklahoma, that appears to be Redbud Reporting. But that compliance firm also is for Republicans, Democrats, and multiple political action committees within the same system. And so House and Senate Democrat leaders use Redbud, even as the PACs that are linked to the consulting class flow through the same pipeline. And then Redbud Reporting then also is the filing agent connected to the PACs, candidates, and compliance. And so I want you to picture like a life cycle circle of the money, right? So you have the candidate at the top. He hires a consultant. The consultant then funnels in money. The candidate then pays the consultant and pays the compliance. And then it just goes back and it just goes in a full circle. So you have a closed loop of money occurring within your political system, within your state. And this is a really cool picture here. This is probably the most important thing that you can see when we try to illustrate cross ideological lines of the compliance and political infrastructure. So on the top left, you see Senator Julia Kurt, who's the minority leader in the Senate for the Democrats, uses Redbud Reporting. You have minority leader Representative Cindy Munson, who uses Redbud Reporting. And I showed Representative Tammy Townley in here just to show you that it's not just the leadership that they have influence with, it's just outsized within the leadership teams, but they also use Redbud Reporting. And then we have Senator Michael Brooks on the bottom right. And so the investigation that I found, and I'm sure it's probably similar in your states, is that we now have a bipartisan network. So different parties, same compliance firms, overlapping political action committee ecosystems, with 2 kind of key names anchoring that. And I'll show you a picture a little bit later that will really bring it to light, being like the camp and Redbud Reporting. And so this continuity kind of helps us, or maybe helps us explain potentially why certain reforms stall regardless of which party wins individual races. And then we have independent expenditures. I'll digress and tell you real quick what an independent expenditure is. An independent expenditure is a political action, a political action committee, a 501c4, which means they don't have to disclose who their donors are publicly. But because of that, they're not allowed to coordinate with any committees, right? Candidates. And so what they do is they make what's called an independent expenditure. Those are the mailers that you receive in your mailbox 2 weeks before the election, telling you that your representative who has voted with Democrats and left ideology for the entire session somehow is the most conservative member of the chamber, yeah, it's independent expenditures, right? So what's interesting is the House Leadership Fund is known as the Majority Fund. It's an independent expenditure within the House. But where it gets really, really dicey is that that PAC in Oklahoma lists its chairman as an individual by the name of Jake Parsons, who is the senior advisor to Oklahoma's Speaker of the House. So as a senior advisor, Parsons is meant to separate from outside spending. As an IE agent, he then reports that spending, right? This blurs the line, at least, between what is supposed to be independent and embedded influence inside leadership races and how the leadership team decides to apply its independent expenditures to try to reshape the legislature. And this is a nice screenshot of it showing it. And what gets really, really interesting here in Oklahoma is that the Majority Fund spending moved through two very distinct groups, South Creek Group LLC and Camp. Well, I went and I looked up South Creek Group LLC's filing with the Secretary of State. And somehow it lists its registered agent as, well, the Secretary of State.
You can't make this stuff up. Like,
I'm not sure how it happens, but it happened.
Oh my goodness.
I come to two potential options, one being the nefarious version and one being, I guess, maybe the more systematic version, right? Being the more systematic version is that they didn't require a designated filing agent, so it went to the last person of resort, which is the Secretary of State. Or the more nefarious version, which is that somewhere along the line for opacity, they changed it. Now, if anybody's ever registered a business in the state of Oklahoma, the designated filing agent is a required block to press the next button.
That is Q Wayne. Wayne was telling me something yesterday, which is why I wanted him to come on. He said that he got 2 mailers from a group. And Wayne, tell us about that. I don't want to speak for you.
Well, actually, I have 10 mailers, and I've received 8 of them in the last 2 months. And so 5 of them are from this independent expenditure group. They're called Blueprint for Oklahoma's Future. And I would estimate each mailer is it costs around $9,000. And so what they're doing is they're sending out these promotional mailers for these incumbents. And then I had 2 more from 2 other groups. And so, we're talking about $65,000 of expenditures that these independent groups are actually spending on these incumbent candidates. They get a lot of time with these candidates. These incumbents. And so, my question would be, how much influence do they have in the voting patterns of these incumbents? Would be my question.
So you looked up the address.
Yes.
2 addresses.
So on their mailer, there's 1 address. And then on their website, which is a very generic website, it doesn't tell you anything about them. And it uses terms like conservative, but they don't discuss what conservative positions they take. Just very generic. You can contact them, but it doesn't tell you who to contact. You have to fill out a form for them to contact you. So anyway, there's 2 different addresses. One is on their mailer, and then one is on their website. So they are in the Tulsa area. They're registered in the Tulsa area. So I go to both of these places, and this was 2 days ago. One was a UPS PO box, which is not unusual for these type of groups. But the other address did not even exist. And there was a suite number associated with it. And the address is actually a house, and it's not facing the street in which the address would correspond. It's facing another street. So it's impossible for this address is non-existent. So what's going on here? And Jonathan and I was at a meeting with Jonathan where he spoke, and we looked up their registration on the Guardian, which is the Oklahoma Ethics Commission, and also the FEC. We did not find a presence on either one of those sites. Is that correct, Jonathan?
That is true. And what I'll say, and just for pure transparency, is that if we just received those, the filing period isn't due yet.
I know. Actually, we have them from the previous quarter as well.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of the previous quarter one, but yes, in the Oklahoma Guardian
found that
system,
out after the fact, after I talked to you.
yeah. There is no, so they have to file at least a committee, right, to do business in Oklahoma. So there's no Oklahoma blueprint does not exist in the Oklahoma Guardian system at all.
That's what,
which means they're not reporting how much money they're spending in the independent expenditures.
Yeah, and then we're talking about a lot of money. $65,000 is a lot of money to spend on a campaign.
Especially, and then not really. I mean, it's maybe not even reporting it right because they're going. It's insane that they're guys. This is how they play the games, right? And so
yeah, I mean, we've got dogs voting in California. So we talk about voter rolls, but then what you're talking about here is money laundering, and it's on its face. It's not even that hard to scratch the surface. I mean, I know Jonathan has spent, he said 200 hours looking at this stuff, but it's supposed to be public, and we, the people, are supposed to be looking into this. And what he just described is what I've been talking about with the political consulting class for a long time. They are the most corrupt. It is the mafia. They are money laundering. So they're paying only their guy to help you, and you can't get in unless you pay their guy, which then puts money back in their pockets, and it's a circle. Okay. I mean,
what's ironic, and I want to point out what Jonathan pretty much stated, is if you're an independent candidate and you're not getting all this money, these ethics commissions scrutinize every single penny that you spend. And that's not occurring with these independent expenditures. And then
the party will tell us, like I was just putting in the chat, and I don't mean to cut you off. You guys know I get worked up, but I've been kicked out of a job so many times because of this stuff. They get pissed when a candidate, a grassroots candidate, a good candidate doesn't have a big enough war chest. Well, listen to me. The poor new guy shouldn't have a big war chest unless it's his own personal wealth. You don't want people with these big war chests that come from the lobbyist swamp corruption that we're talking about. So stop giving candidates a hard time for being poor and give them money.
Let me say one more thing, and I'll turn it back over to Jonathan. Here in Oklahoma, we have candidates who have taken a no lobbyist campaign pledge, so they're not taking money, and that's who we are asking our grassroots voters to really scrutinize and support. And Jonathan, back to you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a huge problem that, like, and what it sucks, and it probably occurs in every state, is just the laws. The legislature has no incentive to pass laws to make it to where it doesn't happen, because the system that they would then be dismantling is the same one that keeps them in power. And so there's just no incentive for the lawmakers they can stay in power without needing your support, because they're just going to have a political system that says that they're the greatest thing since, I don't know, Lucky Charms. But
it's like term limits and thinking Congress was going to vote to expose all their wrongdoings with the sexual harassment stuff that we just saw. They're not going to vote for their own stuff to be exposed. It's disgusting.
Yeah. So this is why, you guys, we need to be looking into it. The stuff that Jonathan is showing you, and we've had several people on talking to you about it. You need to look beyond what the candidates are saying and look at the funding. Always follow the money. That's what Andrea and I were telling everybody with COVID, and with any kind of scientific research. Well, who's paying for the research? That's going to tell you what they find. We guys, follow the money. Follow the money with the political stuff. I do know that there are some conservative PACs, so I disagree a little bit with some of the no PAC pledge, because I think some of the conservative PACs would be helpful to get money from. But I do think overall, especially the lobbyists, which is a little bit, it's best just to stay out of it completely.
Well, and look who runs those PACs, because again, and a lot of campaigns that come to me for assistance, I always say, okay, is there any PACs that you're saying, there might be some good PACs you want to associate with. The campaign can't be working with the PAC. There has to be a division. And what Jonathan's showing is that there's a lot that have no division. That's illegal, guys. You can't do that. Your campaign manager can't be running your PAC, and they can't be working with your PAC. But there, like you said, they're probably few and far between, but there can be good PACs out there.
There's like OK2A here.
Yeah.
And they will give money, and they have fought for our gun rights, and they've given money to legislators. And I know Wayne agrees with them. He so there's a few, but they are few and far between. Yeah. And paying attention. And if your guy is well funded, that is a red flag.
Well, just find out where the funding comes from. Having money alone doesn't make you a bad person.
There's nothing wrong with making your own money, right?
Having money alone doesn't make you bad, but like you're saying, track the money. And I'm just so sick of us saying we can't vote for him because he doesn't have enough money. I say, you know what? If you think he's a good guy and he's a grassroots guy and he's new, because I'm so sick of incumbents, a new guy without a lot of money, look into him, get on the phone with them, sit down and have lunch with them. They can do small, and find out if he's good, and then give him money. Like,
I will say,
donate to them.
Yes.
I will say when I ran my campaign, I think that's the biggest thing, right? And it's across any us as conservatives, we like to be also conservative with our money, right? Let's be honest.
Right. Yeah.
Your candidate that you want to win, it's an unfortunate side effect of the political climate that we are in. They need your money.
Yeah.
That's
It's as
right.
simple as
They
that.
do.
The grassroots have to put their money where their mouth is. We had Jason Murphy on here talking about the lobbyist pledge, and that is powerful. I'm sorry, Wayne, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Andrea, I just want to say something else in conjunction to what you're saying. Transparency.
Yes.
Follow that money, go to their website, see if they tell you who they are, who donates to them, what they believe in. But when they have a generic website that tells you literally nothing, but uses terms to entice your attention, like conservative, for the children, or whatever it is, you know what? If they're not disclosing information to you, you know what? I would question them.
Yeah, and the political consulting, I was telling Jonathan and Charity before we started, I want to flip the table with the corruption with the political consulting. I think that political consultants shouldn't get paid and shouldn't get paid as much as they do at all. So that in turn, the candidates don't need $7 million to run a senatorial race, right? They don't need $5 million to run a gubernatorial race. That is insane. We hate how much money it costs. But then, like you said, Jonathan, there was a consultant there that was getting paid $1 million for a campaign. Why? I'm asking you why. Why does a consultant need to get paid upwards of $10,000 to $20,000 a month to do what? You guys are driving me nuts. I will show you. Call me. I will show you how to do your own social media and win a campaign with grassroots support, not with $1 million to give a DC consultant who does not care about you or your state.
Charity, if you want to throw the presentation back up, I think this is a really good place to end this first section. And this picture is mind-boggling when you look at it.
Okay.
All right. So on here, what you see is that top row. What I did is I took all the data from all the ethics and made it into a chart or a map that can be visualized, the connections. So the red up top is the Senate leadership. The green on the bottom is the House leadership. All of this little circles in gold are people that are currently seeking public office, not re-election, but seeking public office into a different space. Right. This blue one on the bottom right over here that has all the connections coming out of it, that is the consultant. The one on the left is the compliance firm of it. Right. And so we can see how it just intermingles together. And then here on the bottom, we see those PACs, right? And just all of the money that's coming out. And then the web that is then created, or I guess another good way to put it is the foundation of the political ecosystem operating within Oklahoma. But if we took this and did it in every state, it would probably look very, very similar. But within this, just this one section, there is 97 connections among, don't quote me on it, I think it's 32 people.
Again, the mafia. If you don't work with the guy that's going to get you elected, then you don't win. So you have a very small amount of consultants who run your entire campaign system.
It's very interesting.
And so I think a good place to end is I like to end on this, right? Which is, where do we go from here, right? We've identified a problem, right? So then how do we fix this problem? I think there's a few things that we could discuss and you could have discussions in your state, right? Unfortunately, political action committee expenditures and independent expenditures as of right now are enshrined in a Supreme Court case known as Citizens v. United, which said that businesses and things like that and groups of people have the same legal and constitutional privilege to lobby your government as you as an individual person does, which is fine, which just means that we need to operate within their system. That they set the rules of the game, now we play the game within it, right? Well, so maybe we talk about our legislatures maybe lowering the amount of money that PACs and lobbyists can give, or independent expenditures can give, right? That would lower the incentive for both the consultant class, the lawmakers, and the PACs to give money, because there'd be just less money present in the system. An additional thing that I've talked about here in Oklahoma with some state lawmakers is requiring disclosures. So when candidates file their candidate committee, requiring them to disclose what consultant they're using, right? At least then the people would be able to know, right? In Oklahoma, we're lucky you can go through and dig through hours and hours of ethics reports to find it, but at least then it would be readily available for like the normal lay Oklahoman who's working to pay for his family, that they can know who's behind and driving the strategy behind the campaign. And so I do think there are interesting things that we can do legally operating within that system that can help us get, one, a better understanding of what's going on, and two, try to shrink the amount of money that's within the political ecosystem.
Wow, Jonathan, I appreciate all the work you've done. Go ahead. I want to see this, my role and your role.
Yeah, so my role is just to collect the documents, map the patterns, and share them to you so you can make your own informed judgments. As a disclaimer, I just need to tell you, I don't speak for the United States Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, Department of War, or any other government entity, and I do not endorse any candidate or any party. Your role, my friends, as the citizens, patriots, is to examine the same filings in your state and in Oklahoma and decide what level of transparency, ethics, and oversight you'll accept.
Very good. I appreciate that. I concur with that last statement, as well as it's just amazing. But thank you for bringing that to us, Jonathan. Andrea, you've been in the middle of this. You've ran some gubernatorial campaigns and other campaigns. Any last words on that?
Well, what I wanted to say was, Charity, you should share your email. And if people want to do what Jonathan did in their state, I would love, we could put that on our Substack. We could bring them on the show.
Sure. So that's charity@freedombrigades.com. You want to put that on, Andrea?
Mm-hmm.
And we will. You guys reach out to us. And if you're a candidate wanting to run and you want to know how you can do it, we want to help you as well.
And I'll offer, if you guys need it, if there's any of your listeners that want to do it in another state and need help knowing where to start, please contact me, reach out to me. I'd love to help you.
And what's your email, Jonathan?
It's jonathan.author.exe@gmail.com.
Perfect. Wayne Hill, any last words?
No, I want to thank Jonathan for all the research that he's done. Jonathan, you've done an amazing job, and thank you for sharing it with us and educating the voter. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you guys so much for allowing me to come on. I know Freedom Brigades is a great group with lots of people that your audience would love to hear from. So I'm honored for the opportunity to speak to them. This
isn't about burying anyone, as Jonathan said. This is about you guys. We're trying to give you tools to do your research and know what to look for. We've got to clean up the swamp. We've got to clean up the republic. We're at war. We've been infiltrated. If you take back your community, you'll take back the republic. Sign up at freedombrigades.com. It's free. We will help you take back our republic, because we're in this together. Thanks, guys.
See you next week. God bless.
Thank you.